I think the Packers will be way better than people think. This team has a good running game, young receivers that should be better. They have the biggest chip on their shoulder in the entire league right now.
All anyone is talking about is just how good Jordan Love looks. It feels like something somewhat special is starting in Green Bay.
You hear the reports that this guy's stinking it up, and then you hear reports from others being like, he's unbelievable. This guy, he's going into a second contract very soon. Put up or shut up.
You know, you guys, if any of you were looking for absolute chaos to keep an eye on before we even see a snap of regular season football in 2023, trust me when I say this, you don't have to look much further than the Green Bay Packers. But it's probably not the chaos that you're implying, because I mean, obviously, as if the new QB1 in town wasn't already all anyone's been paying attention to, there's also the proven, the further improving, and even the new additions to this team that easily, in my opinion, make them one of the more intriguing rosters in all of football. And while because of this, it was clear that a lot of people had their doubts on this team early on in the offseason, things over the last couple of weeks seem to have taken a massive turn in Green Bay, and honestly, I don't think it was in the way that many of you were expecting. But if any of you guys are looking for more NFL content just like this, do not forget to subscribe and turn on those notifications to never miss another NFL video as we continue throughout the entire 2023 season. Okay, so to get back on topic with the Green Bay Packers, while yes, in most situations and with most teams, you never really want to look too far into what you're seeing out of a team's training camp and preseason, but considering Green Bay's almost unmatched level of inexperience at some of their core positions in the offense, yeah, there's definitely good reason to be paying attention to this stuff. But even while the entire NFL world has been taking and running with just about everything that we have seen from these guys, as we had somewhat mentioned earlier, the inexperience level of this team is not as bad as some of these headlines are making it out to be. I mean, for starters, they're retaining arguably one of the best running back duos in the entire league, and their numbers from 2022 will do more than enough to back that up. You could also definitely make the case that they have one of the more promising young wide receiver duos in football, especially considering what we saw from them down the stretch of last season, and even considering how much they've continually invested into their defensive presence in years past, along with specific players returning, this side of the ball could very well improve in 2023 as well. But once again, as we've seen through the headlines, nothing that we just mentioned matters in the slightest as soon as we start talking about this guy. Now, with everything that we've seen over the last couple of months, since the Jordan Love QB1 era in Green Bay officially began, I mean, it's gone pretty much exactly how I would have expected it. Because while on one side of things, we've been definitely seeing our fair share of impressive plays, promising reports, and even high praises from his coaching staff, teammates, and the media, there's also the other side of the equation where people out there are going to the absolute extremes to voice how terrible they think he is.
I loathe Love, despise Love. Jordan Love can't do a damn thing. This is going to be a predictable disaster because Jordan Love can't play football.
You know, it's even funnier to think about that quote when you realize that he said that following a joint practice. I mean, ever since this guy was drafted into the league, there's been highs and lows following him with everything that he has done. Hell, even what we saw prior to this season follows that exact storyline. But when you're talking about what we've seen in this preseason so far, it's safe to say that the highs have very much outweighed the lows. For example, just from an overall standpoint, looking at the production of Jordan Love, at least in terms of his numbers throughout the entire preseason, Packers fans have loved what they've seen from him, and rightfully so. But even aside from the numbers, which again, I do understand you guys before you try to tell me in the comments once again that it is the preseason, it seemed that almost every aspect of his play, when you take a little bit of a deep dive into it, either met or exceeded the expectations that most initially had for him. I mean, his pocket awareness has been nothing short of great in most situations. He's been able to continually hit receivers in stride with some exceptions here and there, but the one thing that has undoubtedly stood out the most to me up to this point has easily been his poised decision making. Because clearly, while there's definitely things that he could improve on coming out of this preseason, and even he would be the first person to tell you that, there always seems to be a fine line in the middle for quarterbacks in terms of how much they're actually willing to risk as opposed to how often they put the ball in harm's way. And well, if the quarterback efficiency that we've seen so far from him is just a preview of what's to come in the future, it feels like he's already very close to finding that fine line. But what if I told you the improvements that we've seen out of Jordan Love might not even be the most intriguing aspect of this offense? Now, of course, while it's really anything but a secret at this point, with the new additions to form a now completely revamped wide receiver room in guys like Jayden Reed, Dontayvion Wicks, and even undrafted rookie standout Malik Heath, and while you definitely can't also forget about the tight end room with guys like Musgrave and Tucker Kraft, I mean, clearly things are going to look different from years past, but aside from just the players, the offensive mindset of this team might be changing right along with them. Let's start with the wide receiver room, because by no means am I going to sit here and try to tell you guys that some of the rookie additions to this team are already more skilled than some of the vets that Green Bay had last season, but what I will confidently tell you is that they definitely add more versatility in terms of the play calling. I mean, just in the sense of Jayden Reed, he feels like an automatic upgrade in the slot, as he's been more than comfortable playing there in the preseason and as we saw in his college days, but he can even be used on the outside or even in pre-motion in the backfield. But what's probably the best part about him is that even with his size, he'll get more 50-50 balls than you'd initially think. But something else that Jayden Reed and almost every single piece in this wide receiver room now possesses is the ability to consistently create separation off of the jump on their routes while also being able to extend the field if need be. And as we've seen already when extending the field, Jordan Love can definitely connect on that deep ball from time to time, but more importantly, with the dual threat ability that this offense possesses and LaFleur's heavy reliance on both RPOs and play actions in his offense in the past, and of course with it also being ran very frequently throughout this preseason as well, it's an offensive scheme that when it does seem to be working in LaFleur's favor, it typically creates bigger openings for these rookies than they're even anticipating. And to think that we haven't even yet mentioned the heavy use of LaFleur's 2 tight end 12 personnel and how much these two freak of natures could end up impacting this aspect of the offense also, while I'm not necessarily saying that I'm expecting the Packers this season to exceed their very surprisingly mediocre offense in 2022. I mean, I also wouldn't be surprised in the slightest if they did. But between this and the lofty expectations for their defense, there's a lot of people that are all over the place in terms of where they think this team is actually going to be come January. But of course, that is where I want to hear what you guys have to think. So be sure to let me know in the comments, what are your expectations either for the offensive or the defensive side of the ball for the Packers this season? And if you had to, give me a prediction for what Jordan Love's stat line will be this year, and on top of that, what their record will be come playoffs. But also, thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate y'all more than anything, and I will see you guys in the next video.